Okay, welcome to my channel, Philadelphia Walks PTSD. My name is Sharon Cole, or Sharon or Cole, whatever you want to refer to me as. No big deal. I am on here for day 31 of a 365-day campaign to seek donors, find some support in order to gain and regain a life that was diminished and I don't know what to say, destroyed in 2011. This is, of course, many years later. I found work all over the place to get by. I was actually, I believe, human trafficked in a way, which is hard to prove, especially because everything looks okay now. But it took me this long just to have the capacity to be able to come onto YouTube. I've never done this in the past. Um, uh, what happened was on the fourth Monday of January 2011, I was made to believe I'd be murdered in my apartment. You know what a puppet looks like. So they can speak through you. But anyway, I was made to believe I would be murdered in my apartment. It was an orchestrated series of events that someone tried to pull off. Those people should be worried because I'm still here, still queer. So on that night, a whole bunch of things happened all at once. My computer snapped on all by itself, or my laptop. I logged off of it totally. I don't know how it turned on all by itself, but I heard the daisy jingle. There was a van outside in the street, idling. In front of my apartment, I was in a first floor apartment in a row home converted to apartments, which is very common here. In fact, more row homes are probably apartments than actually lived in by some sort of family or whatever. So we have a lot of landlords or owners. So a whole new take on landlords. Are they your owners? Or do they perceive themselves to be your owners? Is it a new slave trade? And people have tried to argue this. This is why I want home ownership. And I would never rent out if it would help someone, but I would never rent out because I would never want that person to think that I was exploiting them or that I'm some sort of owner of another person. That is disgusting. So I was made to believe I'd be murdered in my apartment. A whole bunch of things sort of erupted at once, snapped me right up out of my bed. I was shaking and trembling just from the initial, startling, scaring tactic. Then I was like, should I look out my window? Should I not? I do think thoughts and ideas are also sent to the brain, because I don't know that I would have thought as much as I did that evening about this. I wouldn't have thought in certain terms. Looked through my blinds and saw a van idling there with a guy with a headset on. 19th Street faces south, so his van was pointed south, and he was looking in. My window was on the west side where I had the apartment, so he was looking like this seemingly into my window. There's a whole explanation that the cops would have, or other people, they would say it was a nighttime shuttle for faculty over at UPenn, thinking they were supposed to pick someone up there. But in my mind, I'm thinking it was a regular van, not a passenger van. They now have new shuttles. It took them only a few short years to come up with clearly marked shuttles, which they never had before. So in the past, they used white-ish vans, but I think it would have been marked as UPenn. But anyway, this one, as I recall, was just a plain white van. I was flipped out because the guy seemed creepy. There was noise under my windows because there's windows down to the basement that are sidewalk level. So the windows are like half above the sidewalk and kind of fall below the sidewalk. Anyway, I thought someone had broken into the basement, thought they were going to key into my apartment and murder me, or break into my apartment. It was a very small shoebox apartment, one way in, one way out. You're kind of trapped in there. So anyway, it's a whole thing that I talk about in my book, Duplicity and Duress, Not Factories in the Making. It took me about 6 years to get to the point where I would record or document as much as I could remember and write it in a book as best I could, switching around names and all kinds of stuff, because I don't want the wrong people to get in trouble or to be held accountable. There are people out here who participated and they don't know what they were participating in. They were set up. People want to say, well, you were set up. You were set up too. If I'm talking to you and you can hear if you're ever in flesh and blood in my presence, you were set up. The people who got away with this, or they think they got away with it, they're up there. They don't walk around on the street. They don't show their faces. They have too much money. People with money don't show up in the common world. They go to different places. I barely saw my landlord. He was usually going to Palm Springs, California. His last name is Wasserman. So anyway, Blackpink, I bring the pain like this, that. Guess who owns that group? Wasserman Entertainment. I look up Wasserman Entertainment, and they keep a low profile. They keep a website that looks kind of shitty, but they have quite a list of people they own. So anyway, this thing was bad. I was trapped in dog walking. I was only supposed to dog walk for a very brief period of time. I was planning to move to the Pacific Northwest. It was a temporary fix. Because here in Philly, people aren't treated very well. You show up to any employer and you're not treated very well. They play a lot of games here. So most places of employment are going to feel toxic unless you're a game player and you get off on it. That's a very specific personality. Sadistic and murderous and premeditative and calculating. Do you want to work with those types of people? That gets old. They're like high school kids. There are very few non-toxic environments in which to work here in Philadelphia, which is why some people seek out alternate means like, oh, dog walking sounds good. Because at least I don't have to sit for 8 hours with a bunch of morons who are playing games all day and hacking people's emails. And guess what? If you hack people's emails, they know it. They're just waiting to decide what to do. How do I know that? Deloitte and Touche, or whatever it is, the accounting firm over here. So there are people who hack out people's emails. You're not allowed to do that. That is private. I don't care if you're using Gmail. Well, Gmail seems so open. They don't want you hacking. Oh, let a cat out of the bag. Trying to scare another one. So in a way, I was human trafficked through dog walking while being tortured on the streets. People milling around here playing all kinds of games. Also, my clients playing all kinds of games, mind games. There were only a few, very small few, like 3, who didn't play games. And I had a lot of clients, and I was running around the streets of Philadelphia all day long, every day. It doesn't seem like work to people who work in another capacity, but that is serious torture. Rain, wind, snow, ice, sleet, on the bike. I had 4 bike accidents. My mouth will never be the same because I had to go to the ER without being insured. Turns out they have a little waiver. Well, since you're not insured, this is perfect. It fits right into Obamacare plan because we need the numbers. When was my serious bike accident? April of 2012. Election year. They know how to play the game big time. They might as well bring that satanic drawing right up here to Philadelphia. I'm surprised it's in DC. A lot of people are on K Street. You'd be surprised what they look like. Technically, that's the lobbyist street, I believe. A lot of lobbyists there. So my mouth was rearranged. My entire face was rearranged by a serious bike accident with mysterious circumstances in 2012. If you were a client of mine back then, you might be guilty. If you moved to the Pacific Northwest, you're probably guilty. If you live in Oregon or Seattle, Washington, you might be guilty. If you moved at all, everybody moved. As soon as Sharon had to sort of be dragged underground and out of sight in order to avoid the danger The death threats. Everybody sold their homes and moved. Except for like 2 or 3 clients who are still in the same homes, which they barely use because they probably came in to help fix the problem. Oh, okay. Now we have to go in and stay here and hire her until we can figure out a way to shuttle her on the Underground Railroad. Yes, I said it. I have O-negative blood. It is the highest minority. If you want to do blood and DNA, guess what? I am the biggest minority in the entire world. We save lives. We don't kill them off. We're immune to HIV. Can you believe that? Studies over at the Smillow Research Center trying to help people without O-negative blood who have AIDS, or they would have HIV and they'd be managing it to prevent AIDS. So anyway, that's it. I am very seriously, and sorry to be so angry, I'm actually a pleasant person, except for the fact that we have a lot of sadistic, satanic, I guess, I don't know what it is, MFers in Philadelphia and in communities where this type of thing is prized. Even Gainesville, Florida is a serious problem because they teach people to orchestrate and calculate and premeditate. That is in a bad way, not in a good way. Like, okay, all right, at least we're protected because we have our little orchestrated community and we don't allow certain things to happen. No, there might be a reason I have relatives in certain areas, or my family has relatives in certain areas, because they have been somehow either used or trained, I don't know, to live in certain areas where people actually premeditate like serial killers. If you premeditate and calculate, you have the mentality of a serial killer. I am trying to avoid the serial killers. I'm normally pleasant, happy, and so forth and so on. I like yoga. I like to eat well. Green juice, give me kachava any day. I want to be out there with the healthy people, not the dark, premeditated, calculating assholes. And Philly is one bitch of a city. It'll take the nicest person and rape her to death. Very dark area up here in the tri-state area. Dark, dark, dark. And Gainesville, Florida is connected. It's fake. Gainesville, Florida is a fake community, and they do stupid things. I do not wish to be part of any of the political circles, and I actually prize free enterprise or private worlds now. I want money. And now I know why people wanted money. Because you never really have social justice. It doesn't exist. It's a myth. Right, read Joseph Campbell, Power of Myth, on your PBS. And by the way, NPR, are we ever going to get any new personalities on there? You have the same people hogging NPR. Isn't that private enterprise-ish to people who are liberal? I'm neither. I'm independent. That's very rare here in the United States. We have to be part of a group. I don't vote. So anyway, seeking people, serious people who understand that gang stalking happens, orchestrated harassment happens, and someone decided to hit Sharon Renee Cole at 626 South 19th Street, where I used to live. I'm here because I saved up a whole bunch of money while working for shit. I'll go through my list of jobs just while being in Florida for 2.5 years. This is 2.5 years. I'll tell you how many jobs I had while living with my mom and aunt before they would pass away. killed off by Gainesville. Florida kills people off. They were of age, so it looks natural, but Florida's kind of snip, snip. Didn't they get rid of all the holistic practitioners? Weren't there a whole bunch of mysterious deaths with holistic practitioners? I forgot what I was going to talk about here. Oh, the jobs I had in Gainesville, Florida. So I got there. I didn't want to seem like a leech because I was staying with my mom and aunt. So immediately I applied to a million things and had a million. I even drove all the way to Poinciana campus, Orlando, Florida, near Kissimmee, to possibly teach for Valencia College. Because technically I can teach classes at community colleges. You should see some of the classes I took at major universities. The professors didn't do anything. They expect you to learn. I'll just read from my book and you'll get it. So anyway, I had to work at Starbucks. I was willing to do it just to have money coming in so I didn't feel like a total leech sitting there. It was kind of uncomfortable sitting there. There wasn't a lot of space. They lived in a mobile home. Santa Fe Community College taught a nonfiction writing class there through non-credit programming, whatever. Substitute taught with Alachua County School District. Alachua County then switched into Kelly Services, just like major cities. Philly uses Kelly Staffing Services. Oh, wow, Gainesville's really original. Oh, we no longer want to deal with staffing of substitutes. Let's bring in Kelly Services to see how they could ruin people's lives. So I count that as two separate employers. I was paid by Alachua County School District for just a smattering of end of the year. By the time I got through orientation and everything, because they have certain dates set up. And then I taught as a substitute teacher through Kelly Services. And I feel like there was an orchestrated setup one day to make substitutes snap out. And orientation teaches you to stand your ground. But if you stand your ground, students think you're being a bitch. And then they start calling you all kinds of names. You're like, am I supposed to stand my ground or let these kids run the roost here? Never go to public school with your kids. I would never, ever, in this day and age, ever torture my child that way. Find whatever program you can to stay away from the general population, because it's a prison out there. Let's see, what else did I do? I worked for Shipt, luckily during the pandemic, and I was able to earn a whole bunch of money, and I got approved to stay here. I took whoever was going to say yes first, because I was not approved by a lesser company and would have lived in a lesser neighborhood of the city with a lot more riffraff. Here, they approved me. I have the money so far. I drained my bank account and I spend everything I have in here is mostly free. Even this was free. I got a CDL Class A thinking I'll do anything, and they were recruiting very heavily. So I went to CR England. But then the pandemic came around. They also didn't have female trainers, and they mess people up there. They tell all the students, be neat, be neat, be neat. Don't get in these cabs and be all sloppy. Guess what? The drivers are all gross and disgusting and sloppy. So if you're a student, you're like, I thought I was supposed to be neat. You're just like a disgusting slob from like high school. With all your shit all over the cab, beer, cigarettes. You want to train in that cab? And besides, ladies, technically it's a little bit of a show for women. Technically it is a world for men. Sad, what can I would say sadly, it's just another job opportunity that women really aren't best suited for unless you grew up on a farm and you know how to drive a certain type of truck. Otherwise, felony USA. For the most part, you want to stay away from that. Even most men want to stay away from that. It's ugly out there. I also was a yoga instructor at UFit Health and Fitness. I also did work exchange for yoga pods so that I could get free yoga because I need to stay healthy. I'm afraid to not stay healthy. Anyway, I feel like I've worked somewhere else. I also did a little bit of dog walking and house sitting for people in the neighborhood of where my mom and aunt live. Very little, but people will call on me here and there. I also helped someone clean his home. He had a starter home and he was fixing it up to sell it in order to get another home. So he's like, come on and help me clean. I'll give you some money. Meanwhile, everybody else who collects all these assets, they just sit there like, you want to go out for ice cream tonight? So, anyway, I'm hoping to escape a very dangerous situation and a city that prizes bullies. A city of uglies. It's very ugly here, and it's getting worse. Go Eagles. We'll try to let's have them win the Super Bowl while we have a whole bunch of stupid shit going on the streets here. This city is hurting big time. There's been no improvement. They keep trying. Well, we'll build more multi-million dollar residences. That'll fix it. Does anyone ever move in? Because I see a lot of empty buildings. I want to know where these people are. Or is the whole city orchestrated? Where's the population? Where'd they all go? This city is so puppeted and orchestrated, we barely have anyone left to make sure it stays controlled. All right, have a nice day.